What you resist persists, an old French proverb. This is an enlightened cut at setting boundaries. Context is how we hold situations and circumstances. Your mastery of context will have an exponential impact on your performance. We'll jump into clarifying this rare skill using some famous people as examples in a few seconds. 4 things to note first about context. Almost no one works on context. Everyone focuses on content, which are the circumstances and situations themselves. Context, color, and shape the content. In this case, the content is setting boundaries. This will become clear as we work on context. Every situation and circumstance comes with some context, whether or not we realize it. A circumstance or situation you find yourself in, whereby you assess that you need to do something like set a boundary, is an example of a circumstance or situation. See these videos for more about context. This video highlights an example of the shifting of a context. It's simple, yet not that easy. Coach Alexander Lyon, PhD, is working within a framework that includes setting boundaries. He has invited comments, and I have some. Coach Lyon is making some assessments about Tom Cruise and Dolly Parton's responses while they are being interviewed, in particular, boundary setting responses. The interviewers are Peter Overton, 60 Minutes Australia, and Barbara Walters. They were judged by Lyon as being inappropriate by crossing personal boundaries. Lyon asserts,
people will cross your boundaries if you let them.
This is a stereotypical default framework or context we all operate out of from time to time, myself included. Try this context. The interviewers did a stellar job, and their subjects, Tom and Dolly, played their parts, as you will shortly see, and, well, you'll be the judge. In Professor Lyon's view, this is where Peter Overton crossed a boundary while interviewing Tom Cruise.
Was Nicole the love of your life?
Now Peter wants to know more about the two superstars' relationship and asks,
and do you have a relationship where you talk, it's a parenting relationship, and talk professionally about it?
Tom Cruise now refuses to answer questions about his relationship with Nicole and becomes, well, take a look.
What do you mean, Peter?
Peter says people want to know.
People want to know.
And that is the whole point of the interview. It is not a social visit at a local pub. Tom insists that Peter behave.
I'm just telling you right now, put your manners back in.
Peter apologizes, but there just might be a payback when it's time to do the final editing for 60 Minutes.
Peter in 60 Minutes added voiceovers and tried to frame this whole story as an example of Tom losing control and implying that he had a temper issue.
Lyon, who has been smiling through the entire Cruise interview, states that Peter is delving into pretty personal territory. Peter, however, has a job to do, and it ain't gonna get done by being cordial. I recommend watching Professor Lyon's entire response on his YouTube. A link is in the comments below. Lyon's context is that the interviewer is being inappropriately intrusive. The interviewers failed to be socially appropriate, thus crossing boundaries. The interviewer would fail miserably if they were very nice and accommodating. The audience would move on to more titillating conversations. Don't we want to see the superstars cringe a little bit?
Never really die.
And become a tad bit unhinged? We want to know what makes them tick and get to know them on a deep level. We want edgy and controversial. We want the interviewer to dig in, be up close and personal.
You're a great champion. You got heart. Thanks for the opportunity.
Ratings are not driven by nice and cordial. We want the banter, not the social grace. Barbara Walters, coming up in a minute here, certainly knows how to be congenial and friendly, but the script was not written for a nice social visit. It was designed to push the rock stars' boundaries, dig up dirt, and find their foibles. We're looking for the chinks in their armor, the Achilles heel. The audience wants to be able to gossip. Hey, did you hear what Tom Cruise said? Peter really got him, didn't he? Or, do you know Dolly Parton's boobs are real? Barbara Walters asked her straight up. Let's see what these bigger-than-life superstars are made of.
Trading shots again! Balboa's trying to hit anything and anywhere!
Let's dig up some dirt and get a reaction that will keep viewers on our channel. Imagine having a conversation that goes like, well, how are you doing today? Tell us what new things are going on in your life. Aw, that is so sweet. Viewers want to know some intimate details, not a fireside chat. That's the job of the interviewer, to push up against personal boundaries of the superstars so the ordinary person can see what they're made of. We want to see how much like us they really are, especially when you get under their skin. If you don't give the viewers something edgy and gossipy, juicy and dramatic, soap opera-like, viewers will find it on another channel that dishes up that kind of drivel. These interviewers have carefully designed questions, and they are paid handsomely to entice and enthrall viewers with the edgy details of these superstars' lives. If they can push some boundaries, so much the better. What underlies any pretenses that they have of being superhuman beings? Are superstars really all that different from anyone else? People want to know about the stars' flaws and weaknesses. We already know their big screen persona, but what makes them relatable? Are there common flaws that we have? This is not a party conversation or a red carpet moment. This is not a polite social discourse. This is an interview to divulge newsworthy gossip. Ted Cruz and Dolly Parton have been around the block, and they know how interviewers roll.
What? Come on, you could do me this one solid.
They are not naive, and they need to have their game on, especially when the job of the interviewer is to stir up shit. Courtly social skills is not what is called for here. If you are going to become a worldwide super celebrity, people are going to want to know what makes you tick, your vulnerabilities, and that is part of the deal. It's part of the cost of being super famous. You give up a great deal of privacy, if you have any at all. The more famous you are, the less privacy you can expect, because the public wants to know about you intimately. Millions, if not billions of people are going to want to know your business. Barbara Walters is being paid a lot of money to dig into the corners. Do you think she talks like that if she ran into Parton on the street? Peter's questions to Tom apparently touched a nerve. Are there some skeletons buried there? Tom starts to get defensive, which Lyon calls setting boundaries. Tom wasn't prepared for that question and didn't know how to answer it. Tom may not have understood exactly what was meant by the word love in that context, and it threw him, so he pushed back. This pushback is the thrilling part. The audience want to see Tom get defensive. The point of the interview is to cross boundaries, to see what lurks beneath the surface, what the person is really made of. Where are the chinks in the superstar's armor? Not only is Tom a superstar, he's married to another superstar, and they have children. So much to poke into there, isn't there? Don't you want to know things? Tom could have had a non-reactive response and just said, "Sure, I love her." The interviewer could press in further and say, "Well, what didn't work for you, or why did you split up then?" looking to unearth a morsel of dirt. Cruz could answer, "We just didn't see eye to eye on everything." Then the interviewer might ask, "Well, what things?" Tom could reply, "Well, I'm not sure I have Nicole's permission to discuss this. Why don't you check back with me later?" And that would be the end of it. Or Tom could use some humor and say something like, "My dark side got involved." The interviewer would say, "Well, what dark side?" "Well, that's why they call it dark side, right? It's unknown." And laugh it off. Or even, "Do you know a good therapist? I can add to my staff. Who do you use?" Or even, "I'm terrible in relationships. You really don't want to go there, do you? This is for public consumption, yeah?" Now that response will get people talking, send the fame meter ballistic. He would have piqued our curiosity in an empowering and mysterious way. Peter got the last say. 60 Minutes was able to fuel the gossip by asserting Tom was having lost control and may have anger issues. According to Lyon, Tom was framed. Let's shift the context from one of building walls, seeking safety, protecting yourself at all cost, setting boundaries, to one of openness, authenticity about our imperfections. Now let's see how Dolly Parton performs. She isn't protecting anything. It's all in the open. She hasn't got anything hidden. So what's to defend? She hides nothing. What boundaries are needed? You're a star. Be prepared that people want to know who you sleep with and how good they are in bed, in the real world. In case you haven't noticed, embrace it. Don't resist. If you set a boundary, that becomes the graveyard of interest, a place where people will surely dig. As a superstar, your life is already transparent. They'll know things about you before you even know them about yourself. Isn't that the deal? If you're going to be known by everyone on the planet is going to know about you in detail. We're going to want to know what skeletons are in the closet and what's hidden in there with them. Surely you don't expect to be bigger than life personalities and then live a cloistered life. When you can get a superstar a little bit unhinged, somewhat unglued, a bit perturbed and disturbed, you have just exposed the person who was bigger than life's superpowers on the big screen, is really more like you and me than the on-screen fantasy.
There is no catharsis. My punishment continues to elude me.
Which is oddly comforting. Maybe our wiring is, well, if you aren't all that perfect, then I can relax and be okay. So let it all hang out. Let's see how Dolly Parton handles "We Want to Know You Intimately," dished out by one of the all-time greats, Barbara Walters.
When you were 11, 12, 13, was it this about you?
Well, you mean the full figure?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I thought that's what you meant. Well, actually, I've always been pretty well blessed.
Well, now we know. No more dirt to dig up there. It's actually all her. Lyon is keeping score and marks Walters down for asking a stereotypical question.
Again, check plus for Dolly, check minus for Walters for asking very stereotypical questions.
Walters wants to know and ask,
You don't have to look like this. You're very beautiful. You don't have to wear the blonde wigs. You don't have to wear the extreme clothes, right?
No, it's certainly a choice. I don't like to be like everybody else. I've often made this statement that I would never stoop so low as to be fashionable. That's the easiest thing in the world to do. So I just decided that I would do something that would at least get the attention. Once they got past the shock of the ridiculous way I looked and all that, then they would see there was parts of me to be appreciated. I'm very real.
Once again, Dolly is straight, transparent, with nothing hidden, no need for boundaries. Lyon now informs us with some psychological interpretation, for which he deservedly has the credentials, in the absence of understanding that the interview is to promote viewership. Lyon says Walters wants to provoke Dolly, which is probably true, and that Barbara's compliments are momentary and used to justify put-downs. Walters is using up moves, attempting to assert dominance over Dolly, playing the role of mother and giving unsolicited advice. Lyon thinks losing composure is a bad thing. That's the point for broadcast media. It fuels view. Let's look.
Sounds like Walters just wants to provoke Dolly and push her around in the conversation. Yes, she tells Dolly she's very beautiful, but that momentary compliment came across as a way to justify the other put-downs.
Walters lobs Dolly the question, do you ever feel that you're a joke, that people make fun of you? A reasonable question to flush out how Dolly copes with the world of stardom.
But do you ever feel that you're a joke, that people make fun of you?
Oh, I know they make fun of me. I know exactly what I'm doing, and I can change it at any time. Or I make more jokes about myself than anybody.
Lyon thinks this is a low point for Walters.
This is a low point for Walters, asking somebody if they feel like they're a joke.
I assert it was a setup for Dolly, the super performer, to knock it out of the park. Dolly doesn't miss a beat with another straight, authentic, and transparent answer. She has nothing to hide, nothing to defend, no boundaries are needed. Assertiveness is not a technique or skill that one doesn't have and you have to rehearse something or go get it somewhere or carry a checklist of things to remember in order to be assertive. What we need is a context. There are many contexts to try out, and that would work like, I'm okay and have nothing to hide, as demonstrated by Dolly. Or, the only person that can disturb me is me. Or, everyone can see my flaws anyway, so what's the big deal? What do you suggest is empowering context? Leave a comment. A different context in which to hold setting boundaries here. Thanks.